US President Donald Trump has accused both Israel and Iran of breaching the ceasefire. Shortly after the ceasefire was set to begin, Israel and Iran continued to exchange strikes. Joining us live now is Senior Analyst in Defence Strategy at the Australian Strategic Policy Institute, Dr. Alex Bristow. Alex, thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it. The US President was clearly furious when it looked like that ceasefire had fallen over. What's your assessment of how Mr. Trump has handled this conflict so far?
He seems to be under some stress. Those who are close to him say it is quite unusual for him to use an expletive like that to the camera. He tends to sort of save his emotional outbursts for his social media feed. But look, I mean, I think it appears that the ceasefire is holding to some extent since those remarks. Iran maintains that it fired its last missile minutes before the ceasefire came into effect. Israel disputes that and struck back. To an extent, I think it's not the important thing right now. The important thing right now is whether the ceasefire can hold and what comes next. And I think we'll be looking closely at what comes out of the NATO summit in The Hague, where obviously President Trump is at the moment talking to the NATO leaders. If there is an expression of degree of unity on the next steps, then that would be good. I think it's difficult to know that there is going to be such unity at this stage. I think most of the European countries are arguing that we need to go back to diplomacy, and the processes that are being discussed in the UN in New York would seem to indicate going back to the 2015 deal that Obama brokered with the Iranian regime, which of course Trump himself threw away. So it's very doubtful that Trump would see that as a basis for moving forwards.
Well, yes, and it is interesting to look at the outcomes of the conflict of recent days. The White House also very unimpressed after the leaking of a classified document suggesting Iran hadn't actually suffered too great a blow to its nuclear program, that it had just been delayed by several months, which of course directly contradicts with what we've heard from Donald Trump.
Yes, it does. I mean, obviously Trump has come out and called it fake news. He's had a go at CNN and the New York Times, who were responsible for sourcing the information. Both those institutions have fairly good reporting teams. At the New York Times, there's a lot of investigative journalism. So I'm sure there's a degree of veracity to the fact that it did come from one branch of the defense community, the intelligence community in the US. It came from the Defense Intelligence Agency. But that is only one branch of a much bigger intelligence community, and it's not necessarily a definitive view that all of them would take, and it's a provisional view as well. It would need verification from other sources. So, look, it is possible that there are intelligence analysts who are equally pulling their hair out and saying, look, that's not our view, that's the view of one particular part of our community. Obviously, Trump has chosen to disparage it thoroughly, though.
Alex, you mentioned the focus on diplomacy. What role have Iran's neighbours had to play in the ceasefire negotiations? What role have other global players like China and Russia had behind the scenes?
Yeah, I mean, we're still finding out, I think. I mean, China has obviously come out quite strongly against the action, but it is trying to sort of not put too much skin in the game. It's not. It's not playing an obvious role at this stage. There are reports that it has supplied the necessary chemicals that would be needed to rearm the next generation of Iranian ballistic missiles, as Iran tries to do what it can to rebuild its depleted stocks of long-range missiles. So that's worrying. And we should remember that China's been really significant in helping Iran become the regional military threat that it is. China also illegally purchases Iranian oil through illicit means, which are embargoed under UN sanctions. So China has always been, has for years been a strong supporter of Iran, but it's seemingly keeping its powder dry. China will want to pose as being a neutral intermediary. It's nothing of the sort, but it will want to try to maintain that position in the international community. And Russia, of course, the foreign minister of Iran went to Russia immediately after the prospect of a ceasefire. And, Russia has really strong links to Iran, including buying a lot of Iranian military equipment, including Shahed drones, the long-range drones that we've seen recently used against Israel as well. Russia now has some capacity to build some of that itself based on Iranian designs, but it still has a strong interest in Iran being able to get itself back on its feet, rebuild its military capability, create headaches for the US and others in the Middle East, as it's historically been able to do for decades, but then also help Russia in its fight against Ukraine.
Dr. Alex Bristow, appreciate your analysis. Thanks so much.